इंडिया स्पीक्स डेली को सब्सक्राइब करें, उसके बेल आइकन को ज़रूर दबाएं यदि आपको इसकी पत्रकारिता पसंद हो। धन्यवाद।
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to India Speaks Daily. As the anti-CAA NRC protests still continue unabated in Shaheen Bagh, with all sorts of people, politicians of opposition parties, film stars, supposed social rights activists jumping onto the bandwagon to draw mileage out of the situation, the ruling government, the Bharatiya Janata Party, has once again made it clear that no decision has been taken with regard to nationwide conduction of the NRC, the National Register of Citizens, as yet. That no decision has been finalized with regard to the nationwide conduction of the NRC. And the announcement was made by Nityanand Roy, the Minister of State for Home Affairs, in the parliament. He responded in a written reply to a question that was raised in the Lok Sabha during the question hour, and these are the words that he said, that till now the government has not taken any decision to prepare National Register of Indian Citizens at the national level. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had also recently remarked during a rally in Delhi that with regard to the NRC, no consensus has been reached on as yet. Even during the joint session of Parliament last Friday, President Ram Nath Kovind had skipped any reference to NRC in his customary opening address. Now, this development is very, very crucial in the context of the entire hate campaign that is being orchestrated by the left parties and the Congress, of which the left liberal media, or rather the pseudo media, has also become a partner now. So this entire development is very important from that perspective, from the point of view of putting a stop to this hate campaign, of which Shaheen Bagh has become a burning example, of which Shaheen Bagh has become a sort of a battleground. Because the whole basis of the hate campaign that has been orchestrated by the Congress and the opposition parties is this imaginary lethal combo of this CAA and NRC, in which using CAA, Hindus would be given citizenship in India, and using NRC, Muslims, supposedly all Muslims will be thrown out of India, especially poor and disadvantaged Muslims. So such is the kind of misguided and rather ridiculous and fictitious narrative that the Congress and the opposition parties have been selling to the country's Muslims, and have been using this to fuel fire to various protests, specifically the Shaheen Bagh protests, the protests that are going on at Shaheen Bagh in Delhi, in which women, Muslim women, have become pawns and dummies of this protest. Because obviously, if you're going to tell any mothers that their children are going to be beaten up, their children are going to be taken away, they're all going to be thrown out of the country, then they would get out in the streets and they would protest. So this is what is happening on a large scale in Shaheen Bagh. Muslims, a huge number of Muslims, are simply misguided and misinformed and panic-stricken. And the educated Muslims are only adding fuel to the fire. What the educated, the intellectual Muslim community in this situation should have actually done is to stop the panic and to educate everybody in the community about what actually entails in the CAA, and with regard to NRC, to not react and actually wait for the NRC to actually start, wait for the government to actually make any decisions with regard to the nitty-gritties of the NRC. But no. The Muslim intellectuals, a huge majority of them, unfortunately, are only adding fuel to the fire in Shaheen Bagh for their vested interests. And the left liberal media has very conveniently joined the bandwagon by by giving out all sorts of propaganda, all sorts of misinformation with regard to the CAA and NRC, and by creating a very hyperbolic and extreme narrative of protest around CAA and NRC. And what people don't understand is that by creating this fictitious narrative of protest, and by the left liberal media is getting enough fodder for its own production. It's getting enough fodder for what it has to publish in the newspapers, to fill the time space on prime time, on TV screens, on TV news screens. So the protest movement at Shaheen Bagh has simply ironically enough become a crucial supplier of news to the left liberal media. But to the people themselves who are sitting there and protesting and wasting their time at the cost of their studies, at the cost of their jobs, and indulging in this kind of very negative hatred, divisive propaganda, which is not going to be good for the health of any community, Hindus, Muslims, or whoever. So people are not simply understanding this, they're not understanding the politics of the left liberal media and the biased vested interests of the Congress and the opposition parties with regard to keeping these protests simmering. So it is at the right juncture of time, at the right point of time, that the government has intervened, that the Home Ministry has made a formal statement now with the effect that the government hasn't made any decision with regard to the conduct of the nationwide NRC as of now. So there is no need for people to panic at all. And this would certainly produce some sort of a dent in the hate campaign that has been smeared by Congress and the opposition parties, the culmination of which we are seeing in full swing in Shaheen Bagh. So this would certainly put some kind of a stop to these protests, because it is only by sort of mixing up the two, by mixing up the CAA and NRC, that the opposition was building this false pseudo-narrative of communal hatred, of communal bigotry, to show that the BJP, the Bharatiya Janata Party, is against the Muslims. Now, since a decision on the NRC hasn't been taken as yet, regarding the CAA, the opposition or anybody has no moral or ethical ground to argue against it, because then it would reflect their own insensitivity, and it would reflect the fact that they are plotting to actually they're plotting to block the chances of citizenship of poor, hapless minorities who have undergone torture, minorities who face the fear of persecution, Muslim majority countries of Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Thank you.